Welcome. Tonight, we will wander together through the calm and comforting world of British tea rituals and how they slowly, peacefully, and almost accidentally became a soothing tradition embraced across the globe. There are no intense moments here, no battles, no loud drama, just the easy unfolding of daily life, gentle customs, and the comforting rhythm of centuries passing. Or if you enjoy this story, I really appreciate to like or subscribe this video. Super curious where you all listening from, so drop a comment with your location and what time is there. Always love seeing who's up late with me. Now dim the light, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. A world shaped not by noise, but by warmth. The warmth of a simple cup of tea, a leaf before it was a ritual, long before the quiet steam curled from British teacups. Long before silver teaspoons clinked softly against delicate porcelain, the humble tea leaf had already lived many lives. Thousands of years ago, far to the east, tea grew in the misty hills of places where the mornings seemed to stretch on forever. People in those distant lands discovered that when the leaves were warmed in water, they released a gentle aroma, something calming, something that soothed the mind. But Britain hadn't yet met tea, and tea hadn't yet dreamed of Britain. In those early centuries, Britain was a land of hearty meals, sturdy alash, and warm fires. The idea of boiling water simply to pour it into a cup for pure comfort, that was still far in the future. But history likes to move in quiet ways, not always with grand events. Sometimes, it happens one cup at a time. Somewhere along the great trade routes of the world, through rivers, seas, and long, dusty roads, a connection began to form. It would take centuries for those threads to weave themselves into the fabric of British daily life. But even then, the story had begun. First arrivals, quiet and curious. Tea arrived in Britain the way many gentle things do, quietly. It didn't sweep into the country with fanfare. It didn't demand attention. It appeared in small wooden crates, carried by merchants whose journeys had taken them far from home. In the 1600s, tea made its first shy introductions in port cities and trading hubs. People encountered it like a curiosity, something exotic, faintly fragrant, and entirely new. At first, only a few wealthy households had access to it. The leaves were expensive, rare, and treated almost like a treasure. But when those early cups were brewed, slowly, carefully, there was a sense of novelty, and also something deeper. A quiet pleasure, a warmth that didn't overwhelm, but gently invited. People described it as soothing, comforting, a beverage that didn't rush you, but encouraged you to pause. And little by little, that small sense of calm found a home. London coffee houses, which hosted cheerful chatter and polite conversation, began adding tea to their offerings. Patrons would sit for long stretches, sipping slowly, letting the warmth travel through their hands as they listened to stories, local news, and the familiar hum of daily life flowing around them. No one knew it yet, but Britain was on the threshold of a cultural shift. Not a loud one, just a gentle one, steeped in warm water. Chapter 3. The tea table appears. Over time, tea began to slip quietly into British homes. People brewed it in small, round pots made of porcelain or metal, carefully pouring hot water over the leaves and watching the liquid transform into warm amber. The first teapots, cups, and saucers became cherished household items, often displayed on shelves like delicate pieces of art. As tea became more available, it settled into domestic life with surprising ease. Not because someone insisted it should, not because anyone declared it fashionable, but because the experience of drinking tea naturally encouraged a slower pace. Families would sit together in late afternoons, talking, reading, or simply enjoying one another's company with warm cups resting in their hands. The tea table, a small, simple surface, began to appear in living rooms and sitting rooms. It didn't command attention. It didn't require elaborate rituals. It simply held the teapot and the cups, becoming a quiet centerpiece of daily comfort. And from these early domestic scenes, the seeds of a future ritual were sown. The calm influence of the Duchess. One of the most gentle influences on British tea culture came from a woman enjoying a quiet afternoon. Her name was Anna, the Duchess of Bedford. In her time, the evening meal in Britain was served late, often long after the sun had begun to set. People would eat breakfast in the morning, then wait most of the day before the grand dinner arrived. The Duchess found that in those long hours between meals, she felt a kind of afternoon lull, a soft weariness, a gentle hunger, a feeling that something comforting might help bridge the gap. So she began requesting a small tray in her room, a pot of warm tea, a light snack, and perhaps a simple sweet or piece of bread. She would sit quietly in her private chambers, sipping slowly, letting the warmth revive her energy in the mildest way. It wasn't meant to be a trend. It was just a moment for herself, a small pause in her day. But the idea was so pleasant, so calming, that she invited friends to join. They gathered in the afternoons for quiet conversation, soft laughter, and leisurely cups of tea. Word spread gently. The custom grew naturally. And before long, the ritual of afternoon tea had woven itself into British life. Not with a sudden roar, but like a soft settling of dust on a windowsill, natural and unhurried. Tea rooms and quiet places. As tea rituals continued to grow, public tea rooms began to appear. These were peaceful places, bright, cozy rooms filled with gentle chatter and the quiet clinking of cups. People came not for grand celebrations or loud music, but for warmth, conversation, and a sense of calm. For many, these rooms offered a small escape from busy streets or crowded markets. They became sanctuaries of stillness, where time seemed to slow down with every sip. In some towns, tea rooms overlooked parks or small ponds. Others were tucked into corners of narrow streets, where the scent of baking pastries drifted through open doors. Inside, people read newspapers, wrote letters, and enjoyed the simple pleasure of being unhurried. The tea rooms didn't just serve tea. They served an atmosphere, a gentle way of living, if only for an hour. And little by little, that feeling spread. Teapots, teacups, and quiet craftsmanship. As the popularity of tea rose, British artisans began crafting teaware with extraordinary care. Potters shaped teapots with rounded forms that felt comforting to hold. Glassmakers created delicate cups that captured the warm color of the brewed tea. Metalworkers forged elegant kettles designed to sing softly when the water reached its perfect temperature. Every detail was intentional, not extravagant, just quietly beautiful. People began collecting teacups decorated with gentle floral patterns or soft, earthy colors. Some families treasured sets passed down through generations. Cups that had served countless conversations, warm afternoons, and quiet evenings. Each piece of teaware became part of the ritual, not because it was necessary, but because it made the moment feel a little more special, a little more serene. Tea as a peaceful companion. By now, tea was woven tightly into British life. It accompanied mornings, afternoons, evenings, moments of celebration. In times of quiet reflection, people brewed tea when the weather was cold, letting the warmth chase away the chill. They brewed it during gentle rainfalls, finding comfort in the sound of drops on the window. They brewed it during visits from friends and during moments when someone needed soothing company. Tea wasn't just a drink anymore. It was a companion, a symbol of warmth, hospitality, and calm. And as Britain continued to explore and connect with the world, tea traveled with it, not as a conqueror, but as a comfort, a calm journey across oceans. As tea became an everyday comfort in Britain, something soft and gradual began to happen. The ritual, once quietly nestled inside British sitting rooms and tea gardens, started making its way across oceans. But it didn't spread with force or urgency. It drifted outward the way warm steam rises from a cup, lightly, effortlessly, following the rhythms of travel, trade, and human curiosity. Travelers carried small bundles of tea with them, not as grand commodities, but as simple tokens of home. British sailors, in their long months at sea, often brewed tea on deck when the winds were calm, letting the familiar warmth steady them as waves rocked the ship with gentle persuasion. When British merchants visited foreign ports, they sometimes offered tea as a polite gesture, a small hospitality, a way of saying, "Let us sit a moment and talk." Tea became, in its own quiet way, a bridge, a soft connector between cultures, spoken not through loud declarations, but through shared warmth. In drawing rooms, ship cabins, and open-air markets far from London, a similar sight began to emerge. A teapot resting on a table, steam rising in slow curls, and people discovering, sometimes for the first time, just how comforting a warm cup could be. The gentle spread of a ritual. In distant places, tea did not always follow British customs exactly. It adapted, softly shifting its shape to fit the lives, seasons, and habits of new communities. Some preferred their tea strong and dark. Others softened it with milk, the way many Britons enjoyed it. Others still sweetened it with honey, spice, or fragrant herbs. But everywhere it went, tea carried a quiet message. Slow down, even just for a moment. By the mid-18th century, tea was becoming familiar across continents. In some regions, it was prepared in tall metal kettles, in others, in small earthen pots. The ritual changed gently, humbly, never demanding uniformity. What endured was the feeling, that lovely sense of warmth, companionship, and breath-softening comfort that seemed to settle around anyone holding a cup. Even in places where tea became woven into bustling city life, its essence remained surprisingly calm. People found themselves pausing, whether for a short break or a long conversation, letting the tea bring balance to their day. In this way, British tea rituals did not conquer the world. They simply arrived, invited by the universal human desire for warmth and rest. Tea in the British home. Back in Britain, tea had become far more than a beverage. It was now an essential part of domestic life, something as natural as opening a window for fresh morning air or lighting a candle in the evening. In the mornings, the first cup of tea often arrived quietly. It greeted the waking household with familiar comfort. A kettle warmed on the stove as people stirred from their sleep, and the day began with soft sips and slow thoughts. In the afternoons, families gathered in sitting rooms with low tables and comfortable chairs. They savored light meals, bread and butter, small cakes, or fruit, while the teapot sat in the center, ready to refill anyone's cup. And in the evenings, tea became a gentle companion once again. After long hours of work, or school, or travel, it invited everyone to slow down before the night settled in. Some people drank herbal blends to soothe their minds. Others preferred the traditional black tea they had grown up with. There was no strict schedule, no rigid rules, just moments that gradually wove themselves into the pattern of everyday life. Moments of warmth, moments of pause. And in those pauses, tea became a quiet symbol of home, a comfort in quiet moments. Throughout the centuries, tea often appeared in some of life's calmest scenes. When guests arrived unexpectedly, the first response in many households was, "Let me put the kettle on." It was a reflex born not out of habit alone, but out of genuine warmth, a desire to share hospitality, comfort, and a gentle welcome. During quiet conversations, between old friends catching up, or two people sitting by a window on a rainy afternoon, tea became a grounding presence. It marked celebrations and ordinary days alike. A birth, a return home, a peaceful morning, a simple break during work. It was there during gentle joys, and there during soft moments of sadness, too, offering warmth without asking anything in return. Tea is one of those rare things. Always modest, always comforting, always patient. It waits for no applause. It carries no grand claims. It simply exists to warm the hands, the breath, and the quiet corners of the day. And because it became such an effortless companion to life's gentlest moments, people around the world welcomed it so naturally, as though it had been there all along. A world of calm cups. As centuries passed, the ritual of tea continued its slow and peaceful journey around the globe that in some places, afternoon tea became a cherished event, reminiscent of British customs, but shaped by local tastes. In others, tea was enjoyed in early mornings, before the sun fully rose. And in many regions, tea houses grew into beloved gathering spots, calm havens where people could rest and breathe a little more deeply. Though every community brewed tea differently, something remarkable remained the same everywhere. Tea created stillness, not an empty stillness, not silence that feels lonely or cold, but a warm stillness, filled with a soft invitation to simply exist for a while, without rushing, without worrying, without needing to accomplish anything. People realized that a cup of tea could make even a busy life feel more grounded, more human, more connected. In this way, tea did not travel across the world as a fashion or a trend. It traveled as a comfort, as a familiar presence that crossed oceans, mountains, and languages with ease and gentleness. The quiet rituals of British life today. Even today, tea continues its steady presence in British homes. In the quiet hours of dawn, people still warm their hands around the first cup of the day. Some sit near windows, watching the sky brighten. Others listen to the slow murmurs of the world awakening. Throughout the day, tea remains a constant companion. During conversations, during work breaks, during slow afternoons that stretch pleasantly toward evening. Some families maintain the classic tradition of afternoon tea, a light meal of pastries, sandwiches, and steaming cups served on tiered trays. Others enjoy simpler moments, just a warm mug and a few peaceful minutes. And in the evenings, when streets grow quiet and lamps glow softly through windows, countless households prepare one last cup before bed. Something mild, something soothing, a blend that helps the mind settle, signaling the day's end. Each cup is a continuation of centuries of gentle rituals. Each sip is part of a story that began long ago and continues, quietly, in the hearts and homes of millions. Tea has remained, at its core, exactly what it always promised to be. A warm, calming presence. A small pause. A breath. A comfort that asks nothing more than a moment of your time. The soft legacy of a simple drink. It's remarkable, when you think about it, how something so small could have such a deep influence. Not through power, not through force, not through grand declarations or loud celebrations. Tea shaped the world gently, through shared moments, through daily routines, through invitations to sit down together, to talk, to rest, to breathe. It became part of human life not because someone insisted on it, but because people everywhere recognized its quiet gift. A gift of warmth in the hands, of calm in the mind, of connection at the table. The legacy of British tea rituals is not one of extravagance. It is one of simplicity, of slow moments woven into the fabric of life, making the world just a little softer, one cup at a time. And so, the story continues. Every day, in homes near and far, in bustling cities and peaceful countryside towns, in gatherings of friends, and in solitary moments of reflection, tea remains a companion to life's gentlest times. Tea and the rhythm of the British day. As we move deeper into this gentle tale, picture for a moment the quiet rhythm of a British day, shaped softly around the presence of tea. In many homes, the morning begins with a familiar ritual. Someone fills the kettle and sets it on to warm. The sound is subtle, a gradual hum as the water approaches its calm, bubbling point. Even before the cup touches the lips, the simple act of preparing tea sets a tone for the day ahead. Unhurried, steady, anchored. A morning tea is often enjoyed quietly. Some people take it while reading a newspaper. Others sip leisurely at the kitchen table, watching sunlight stretch across the floor. Some drink it in bed, wrapped in soft blankets, allowing the warmth to ease them gently into wakefulness. As the day unfolds, tea continues to weave itself through the hours. There is the mid-morning cup, often shared during small breaks at work or at home. Then the early afternoon tea, offering a moment of balance amid daily tasks. And, for many families, the much-loved tradition of afternoon tea, a pause that feels both ordinary and special. Each moment with tea becomes an anchor, a soft reset, a reminder that even in busy lives, there is room for stillness. The rhythm of tea is not fast. It is not demanding. It simply encourages a slower pace, a steadier breath, a deeper sense of presence. Throughout Britain, these small pauses have shaped days for centuries, and they continue to do so today, quietly guiding people through their routines, their thoughts, and their moments of rest. The art of the perfect brew. One might think that making tea is a simple task, and in many ways it is. But within that simplicity lies a quiet art, a delicate balance of water, leaves, temperature, and time. In Britain, people have long approached tea making with a kind of gentle precision. Not strict rules, but thoughtful attention. Some prefer a strong, robust brew, letting the leaves steep a bit longer. Others enjoy a lighter cup, removing the tea at just the right moment to create a delicate, pale gold. Some add milk first, others add milk after. Some skip milk entirely. There is no right way, just the way that brings comfort. Part of the pleasure lies in the familiar motions. The lifting of the kettle, the sound of water pouring into the pot, the subtle fragrance that rises as the leaves awaken. Many British households have their own treasured teapot, sometimes made of porcelain, sometimes metal, sometimes simple stoneware, each with its own history, its own gentle imperfections, its own memories. There is something soothing about these little rituals. The way steam curls softly upward. The way a teacup warms the hands. The way the first sip settles gently in the body. Brewing tea is not about haste. It is about presence. It is about creating a moment of calm within the day. A small but meaningful pause. Even today, people cherish the art of the perfect brew. Not because they need perfection, but because the act itself brings peace. And in that peace, the tradition continues. Tea in the English countryside. Imagine now, if you will, the British countryside. Rolling hills, quiet lanes, stone cottages with gardens that bloom in soft pastels during spring and warm golds in autumn. In these peaceful landscapes, tea holds a special place. Villages often have small tea shops, simple, cozy establishments with wooden tables and gentle lighting. Local families gather there on weekends, sharing stories while enjoying freshly brewed cups. Walkers and hikers, after long rambles through fields and hedgerows, often end their journeys with tea and simple treats, fluffy scones, light sandwiches, or a slice of cake made with local ingredients. In many cottages, afternoon tea is as natural as opening the windows to let the breeze in. People sit in conservatories or small gardens, surrounded by flowers, listening to birdsong as they sip slowly. Farmers returning from morning work often take a midday tea break, settling into well-worn chairs by the kitchen table. There, steaming mugs sit alongside plates of bread and butter, offering warmth after long hours spent outdoors. The countryside has a way of slowing time, and tea fits perfectly into its gentle rhythm. For centuries, rural communities have embraced tea not just as a drink, but as a moment of connection. To nature, to home, to one another. It is in these quiet places that the essence of tea truly shines. Simple, comforting, calm. Tea in British literature. If you leaf through British literature, from soft, poetic verses to gentle novels filled with country estates and quiet moments, you will find tea everywhere. Writers have long understood its calming presence. They weave it into scenes of everyday life, using it to bring characters together, to soothe their worries, or to show hospitality and kindness. In peaceful gardens, characters sit and talk over tea. In cozy drawing rooms, they find comfort after long journeys. During reflective moments, they prepare a cup to help them think. Many stories use tea not as a central theme, but as a warm backdrop, a sign of home, stability, and the gentle passage of time. Some characters discuss their hopes and uncertainties over tea. Others fall in love while sharing an afternoon pot. Some find solace after a long day by sitting quietly, hands wrapped around a warm cup. In poetry, tea appears as a symbol of serenity, a pause between thoughts, a quiet hour of reflection. Through literature, tea's role in British life becomes even more visible. It is not merely a drink. It is a companion to countless scenes, a soothing thread that ties together stories across generations. And just as readers are drawn into those calm moments on the page, tea continues to bring comfort to real life. One gentle chapter at a time. Tea and the soft culture of conversation. Conversation in Britain has long had a gentle partner, tea. In homes, in gardens, in small shops and grand estates, tea has marked the beginning of both light-hearted chats and meaningful talks. When two friends meet, they often begin with tea. When neighbors stop by, the kettle is set on instinctively. Even in workplaces, tea breaks are moments of connection, opportunities to step away from tasks and share a few words. Tea creates space for people to speak softly, to listen, to pause. It brings balance to conversations, even difficult ones. A warm cup in hand seems to soften the edges of words, making them gentler, easier to express. And at social gatherings, tea offers comfort to those who feel quiet or shy. Holding a cup gives them a sense of presence, a small anchor in the middle of a room filled with conversation. In many ways, tea is less about the drink itself and more about the atmosphere it creates. It encourages people to stay a while longer, to share stories, to open up in their own time. Generations of Britons have grown up with this quiet culture of conversation. And even as the world becomes faster, louder, and more digital, the essence of tea remains unchanged. It is a gentle reminder that human connection thrives in calm spaces. Spaces where time slows, where warmth is shared, where conversation flows at its own peaceful pace. Tea as a symbol of welcome. Throughout Britain, there is a familiar expression often offered to guests. Come in and have a cup of tea. Those words are not merely practical. They are an invitation to comfort, to warmth, to companionship. For centuries, tea has been a symbol of hospitality, a way of showing kindness and making others feel at ease. When someone visits a British home, offering tea is almost instinctive. It doesn't matter if the visit is planned or spontaneous. Tea is a gesture of welcome, a small gift of time and care, in moments when comfort is needed. After a long journey, a tiring day, or even in times of sadness, tea becomes a gentle offering of support. Families gather around the table for tea after walks in the countryside. Neighbors chat over mugs on doorsteps. Friends meet in cafes, finding companionship in warm cups. Tea carries a simple message. You are welcome here. You are not alone. Sit with me a while. And across centuries of British life, this soft tradition has remained beautifully constant. Tea and the gentle spread across Europe. As Britain's love for tea grew, its soft influence began drifting quietly across Europe. Not as a grand movement, not as a sudden shift, but as a calm ripple, one that moved slowly, like the widening circles created when a leaf touches the surface of still water. Many countries already had their own traditions with warm drinks. Herbal infusions, spiced broths, simple boiled water with fragrant leaves. But the British style of tea, with its steady rhythm and cozy rituals, brought something a little different. Travelers carried the habit with them. A morning cup to begin the day, a midday pause to gather thoughts, an evening sip to unwind. Writers mentioned tea in their journals. Merchants introduced it in small quantities. Diplomats served it in their homes abroad. Slowly, households across the continent discovered the charm of this quiet British custom. Not the ceremony, not the formality, but the feeling it brought. A sense of calm, a gentle break from the rush of daily life. Tea entered cafes and small shops, found its way onto breakfast tables, and slipped into evenings shared among friends. It never demanded attention. It never insisted on becoming central. It simply became another way for people to rest. And just like that, a British comfort became part of the wider European rhythm. Softly, steadily, without hurry. Tea in seaside towns and harbors. Now, let us drift for a moment to the quiet British seaside. Along the long, curving shores. From Cornwall's rugged cliffs to the calm beaches of Norfolk, the tradition of tea found a peaceful home. Fishermen returning from early morning voyages often drank strong, warming tea before unloading their catch. The heat helped ease the cold from the sea air. The gentle bitterness refreshed their senses after hours of steady work on dark waters. Seaside tea rooms became popular places for travelers. Visitors came to walk along the sand, to breathe in the salt air, and to sit by windows overlooking the waves, a warm cup between their hands. Many of these tea rooms were simple, small tables, soft pastel walls, and the faint scent of baked goods drifting from the kitchen. The atmosphere invited people to linger, to watch gulls glide overhead, to listen to the rhythmic hush of the tide. Families celebrated small holidays by the sea, ending their afternoons with tea and biscuits. Children, sandy from playing on the shore, would sit quietly, feeling the day slow down around them. Tea by the sea carries a special calm. The warmth of the drink and the coolness of the breeze blend into a feeling of gentle balance. Tea is no wonder that, over the years, seaside tea spots have become beloved resting places, places where time moves a little slower, and the mind feels gently carried by the waves. Tea in British gardens. Imagine, if you will, a quiet British garden. Not a grand palace garden with towering hedges, but a simple one behind a modest home, with soft grass, a few flower beds, and perhaps a wooden bench beneath an old tree. Garden tea is one of Britain's gentlest pleasures. When the weather is mild, people bring out a pot of tea in cups, sometimes a small plate of biscuits, and spend peaceful hours surrounded by nature. The setting varies from garden to garden, some filled with roses, others wild with herbs, some with winding pathways, others with vegetable plots neatly arranged in rows. But the feeling is always the same. A quiet sense of home, a calm connection to the earth. The ritual has existed for centuries, from Victorian afternoons spent in carefully arranged gardens, to modern moments of stillness enjoyed on patio chairs or soft blankets on the grass. Many people find that tea tastes different outdoors, gentler, fresher, as if the air itself infuses the cup with calm. Birds fluttering in branches, soft breezes moving through the leaves, the distant hum of bees. All these natural rhythms blend with the warmth of tea to create a profound sense of peace. For countless Britons, a simple garden tea has been a quiet refuge, a small escape from obligations, a moment of breathing space. It remains one of the most cherished ways to enjoy tea, not for ceremony, not for tradition, but for the pure, peaceful pleasure it brings. Tea in the early evening glow. As evening approaches and sunlight begins to soften, tea once again appears in British homes, this time in a slower, more reflective form. Early evening tea is not always planned. It is simply a custom that emerges naturally at the close of the day. People return home from work or errands. They place keys on side tables, remove coats, and perhaps take a moment to rest before beginning evening routines. And often, the next step is tea. The act is gentle, filling the kettle, waiting as it warms, feeling the faint steam rising around the cup. In this hour, tea holds a quiet role. It invites the mind to transition, to move away from the busyness of the day and toward the stillness of night. Families gather in living rooms, sharing small conversations, or simply sitting together in calm silence. Individuals sit by windows, gazing at fading light, reflecting on the day's small moments. Some people drink their evening tea while reading, others while journaling. Some simply sit, enjoying the warmth in their hands and the gentle slowing of their thoughts. Tea seems to match the soft glow of early evening, warm, subtle, comforting, and as night settles in, its final sip often feels like a whispered invitation to rest. Tea in British workplaces. Throughout modern British history, tea has been a steady companion in workplaces of all kinds. In old workshops, craftsmen took tea breaks to steady their hands and rest their eyes. In offices, workers gathered around small kettles, sharing light-paced conversations as water boiled. In schools, teachers often kept mugs near their desks. Nurses, during long shifts, found comfort in quick, warm sips. Drivers paused their routes for roadside tea flasks. Gardeners took their break in sheds, tea steaming gently beside tools. The workplace tea break became something of an institution, recognized, accepted, and quietly appreciated. Not because it provided energy, but because it provided pause. Even in fast-paced environments, tea encouraged a moment of balance, a gentle step back, a chance to breathe. Over decades, these tea breaks shaped a quiet culture of connection in workplaces. Colleagues shared stories, laughed, supported one another, or simply rested in companionable silence. The kettle in the break room became a small symbol of community, a humble fixture that helped people get through long hours. Even with modern machines and sleek office designs, the tradition remains. People still gather, cups in hand, finding calm in brief, warm moments. Tea continues to remind workers across Britain that rest is important, that slowing down for a few minutes can bring clarity, and that comfort can be found in simple rituals. Tea and quiet reflection. Now, let us travel into the quieter corners of British life. The moments when tea becomes a companion for reflection. These are the peaceful times, often spent alone, when one sits with a cup of tea and allows thoughts to settle. For some, this happens in the early morning. For others, late at night. For many, it occurs in those small pockets of time between tasks, when the world seems still. People reflect on distant memories, on hopes, on challenges, on simple moments of gratitude. Tea has a way of encouraging softness in these reflections, a gentle pace that does not rush, a warmth that eases tension. Writers have long used tea to accompany their work, letting the steady rhythm of sipping influence the rhythm of their thoughts. Artists pause with their tea, examining their work from new angles. Students take comfort in it while studying, finding focus in its familiar presence. Reflective tea moments are deeply personal. They are not spoken of often, yet they exist in almost every household. And even though they may be small, they offer a kind of peace that lingers, a reminder that stillness can be found in the simplest of acts. Tea as a family tradition. Across generations, tea has played a quiet role in family life. Grandparents teach grandchildren how to brew a gentle cup. Parents introduce children to warm milk tea during holidays. Siblings share mugs while talking late into the evening. In many households, tea marks small rituals, Sunday mornings together, celebrations after long days, comfort during illnesses, welcoming guests who feel like family. Some families have specific teapots passed down through generations. Their surfaces show the faint traces of years of use, each mark holding a story. Others keep special cups for certain occasions, a floral cup for birthdays, a sturdy mug for everyday use, a delicate set for family gatherings. Tea becomes part of memory, the memory of a warm kitchen, the memory of soft voices, the memory of being cared for. Even as children grow, move to new places, begin their own lives, they often take these tea traditions with them, finding comfort in the familiar rhythm. A cup of tea becomes more than a drink. It becomes a bridge to the past, a connection to home, a small piece of family history that continues quietly through time. Tea and seasonal calm. Across the British Isles, tea blends quietly into the changing seasons, each one giving the familiar drink a slightly different kind of comfort. In spring, when gardens begin to wake, people often enjoy tea beside open windows. Fresh air drifts in, carrying the scent of young blossoms. Birdsong becomes a soft backdrop. The tea feels light and refreshing, a companion to gentle renewal. As summer arrives, tea takes on a slower, almost dreamy quality. Some drink it outdoors in shaded corners of gardens. Others bring it on peaceful picnics by rivers or village greens. Long days stretch into warm evenings, and the comforting warmth of tea becomes a quiet balance to the brightness of the season. Autumn, with its soft golden tones, brings a deeper kind of tea pleasure. Leaves rustle underfoot. Cooler air settles in. People retreat indoors, wrapped in sweaters, finding warmth in their mugs. This is often the season when many rediscover tea's ability to bring calm to early evenings and quiet afternoons. Winter offers yet another shade of comfort. Tea becomes a small refuge against the cold, a warm glow in hands chilled from frosty air. Families gather around tables for hearty teas. Individuals sit by windows, watching soft gray skies or the gentle fall of snow. Tea, in winter, feels like a companion, steady, familiar, reassuring. Through every season, tea adjusts but never changes at its core. It simply provides what is needed: warmth, calm, presence. And so, the seasonal cycle continues, with tea as a quiet constant in the shifting landscape. Tea in the quiet corners of British cities. Though the countryside is often associated with tranquility, cities too hold their own gentle pockets of stillness. And tea plays a calm role there as well. In places like London, Manchester, Edinburgh, or Bristol, life moves quickly, trains rushing, streets bustling, buildings rising tall. But within that movement are countless quiet corners where tea is enjoyed slowly. Small cafes tucked between old brick buildings, tiny tables by windows fogged with steam, bookshops with narrow staircases and hidden tea rooms, offices with quiet break rooms where colleagues share a few peaceful minutes. In these spaces, tea becomes a soft escape, a pause that brings relief from the city's rhythm. People sipping tea while reading on park benches, hands wrapped around warm cups on chilly mornings. Artists in studios taking steadying breaks. Students in libraries using tea to find focus. Workers enjoying brief moments of calm before returning to busy tasks. Even in the heart of bustling cities, tea creates small sanctuaries. It invites people to sit for a moment longer, to watch the world with gentler eyes, to feel at ease, even amid the hum of urban life. These quiet city corners become beloved spots, places people return to again and again, knowing they will find calm waiting there. Tea in British travel and journeys. Travel, too, has long been accompanied by tea. In earlier centuries, when journeys were slow, by horse, carriage, or early rail, tea was brought along in flasks or brewed at roadside inns. Travelers rested for a while, warming their hands, allowing the calmness of tea to ease the fatigue of long paths. As trains became the main form of travel, railway stations began serving tea to passengers. It was a comforting sight, steam rising from cups, as people waited for their trains to arrive. On long journeys, passengers often drank tea while watching. Rolling hills, quiet farms, and distant rivers blur past the window. The rhythmic sound of the train wheels and the warmth of tea created a sense of peaceful movement. Even today, tea remains a quiet companion for travel. People sip it while waiting at airports, at bus stations, in service areas along long motorways. Travel mugs filled with tea accompany commuters on morning trains. Families bring flasks on scenic drives through the countryside. Hikers prepare tea at the tops of hills, resting as they admire the landscape below. Tea makes journeys gentler. It offers a small pause amid movement, a moment to steady the mind. Before continuing on, tea and soft hospitality abroad. As British travelers ventured across the world, they carried their tea customs with them, not forcefully, not with grand intention, but with the natural instinct to bring comforting habits from home. In small ways, tea became part of interactions abroad. British families living in faraway places continued their daily tea routines, sharing the tradition with neighbors and new friends. Travelers in hotels requested tea in the mornings, bringing the calm familiarity of home into new surroundings. Explorers, writers, and merchants offered tea to those they met as a gesture of goodwill, a simple act of connection. Gradually, in many corners of the world, British-style tea rituals blended gently with local customs, not replacing them, but quietly joining them. In some regions, afternoon tea became a beloved tradition. In others, new blends and variations appeared, inspired by British habits, yet shaped by local tastes. In this way, tea became a shared cultural touchpoint, a soft bridge between people, a universal comfort. Its spread was not grand or dramatic. It was slow, steady, kind. And through these small exchanges, tea found new homes and new meanings around the world. Tea and the softening of the day's edges. There are times in life when the day feels full of tasks, full of thoughts, full of small responsibilities that stack gently on one another. In such moments, tea has long served as a quiet way to soften the edges of the day. People return to their homes, step out of their shoes, and place a kettle on the stove. This small act signals the beginning of a calmer phase of the day. Tea invites people to sit, to breathe, to notice the stillness around them. Even when the day feels heavy, tea provides a soft grounding, a warmth that helps settle the mind and bring clarity to lingering thoughts. This soothing effect has been recognized for centuries. Writers mention it, letters describe it, diaries record it. Tea has been the quiet companion to countless evenings, helping people ease from activity into rest. The day's worries do not vanish, but they often become quieter, like gentle waves instead of crashing tides. This calming transition is one of tea's most cherished gifts, and though it may seem simple, its effect is profound. Tea as a marker of personal time. In a world filled with obligations, tea often becomes a subtle marker of personal time, moments that belong to the individual, free from pressure, expectations, or schedules. These are the times when a person prepares tea, not because it is a routine, not because anyone else expects it, but because it brings a feeling of peace. A solitary morning cup while watching the sky brighten, a quiet afternoon mug during a pause between tasks, a calm evening brew before settling into bed. These small rituals create gentle pockets of personal space. They offer an opportunity to reconnect with oneself, to reflect, to breathe without hurry. For many people, this is the most meaningful part of tea's presence in life. Not the social gatherings, not the traditions, but the quiet, private moments where the world feels still and the mind feels clear. Tea becomes a companion for rest, a friend for thought, a guide toward gentle self-care. These personal tea moments are often the ones people cherish most. Tea and the soft culture of British manners. Among the many customs woven into British life, tea has quietly shaped the etiquette and manners of daily interactions, not in a strict or formal way, but in a gentle, guiding sense. A subtle influence that encourages kindness and patience. When offering tea to a guest, Britons often do so with genuine warmth. The gesture is simple, a small act of care, a signal that someone is welcome. Politeness forms around this ritual. People ask how others take their tea, not because they do not know, but because the question itself feels inviting, a way of acknowledging someone's presence and personal preference. In conversations, tea offers natural pauses, moments where one can gather thoughts, sip quietly, and speak with calm sincerity. Even in times of mild disagreement, tea softens the atmosphere. It creates space for cooler thinking, gentler tones, and a more considerate exchange. In workplaces, People often make tea for colleagues. It becomes a small gesture of support, a way to brighten someone's day, or ease the strain of a long task. In homes, parents teach children to offer tea politely, to serve others before themselves, to treat the moment with respect. Through countless everyday interactions, tea gently encourages the British cultural values of courtesy, patience, and thoughtfulness. Its influence is not loud, nor formal, but quietly woven into the rhythm of life. Tea and the elegant simplicity of British tableware. While tea itself is simple, the objects surrounding it have long held their own subtle charm. Teapots, cups, saucers, sugar bowls, and milk jugs. Each item reflects a blend of practicality and quiet beauty. In many British homes, tableware for tea is not extravagant. Often it is humble. A well-loved mug, a chipped teapot passed down from a parent, a set of mismatched cups collected over time. But these objects hold stories. A floral cup gifted during a birthday, a teapot bought during a holiday in a small village shop, a mug that traveled with someone from childhood to adulthood. In some households, there are tea sets kept for special occasions. Delicate designs, soft colors, light porcelain that feels almost weightless in the hand. In others, sturdy stoneware is used daily, familiar and comforting. British tableware often reflects the personality of the home. Some opt for classic patterns, others for plain whites, and some enjoy vibrant, cheerful designs. The real beauty lies not in appearance, but in purpose. These objects help shape moments of calm. They hold warmth, carry ritual, and maintain a sense of continuity. For centuries, craftspeople across Britain have created teaware with attention to balance and form, not for grandeur, but for everyday comfort. And through their quiet use, the simple objects of tea become part of people's lives. Day after day, tea and the gentle rise of local blends. As tea settled deeply into British culture, local communities began creating their own blends to suit their climates, tastes, and traditions. Small shops experimented with combinations of leaves, adding hints of herbs or subtle floral notes. Some blends were crafted for mornings, some for restful evenings, and others for social afternoons. While the classic black teas, Earl Grey, Assam, Darjeeling, remained beloved, villages and towns developed unique variations. Some added lavender from local gardens, some incorporated gentle mint from wild patches. Others used rose petals or chamomile blossoms to create soothing infusions. These blends reflect a sense of place, an expression of the local soil, the local air, the local hands that prepared them. Over the years, tea shops became quiet sanctuaries, their shelves lined with small jars, carrying fragrant leaves. Visitors entered with curiosity, often leaving with a new favorite blend that would accompany their mornings and evenings. Tea merchants took pride in their craft, not as a grand art, but as a thoughtful practice, listening to what people enjoyed, making adjustments, creating blends that carried soft comfort. Through these local creations, tea became even more personal, more connected to the identity of communities. It became a reflection, not only of British tradition, but of local imagination and care. Tea in moments of gentle celebration. Although tea is often associated with everyday comfort, it also holds a quiet place in celebrations. Not the loud, festive kind, but the small, meaningful moments that families and friends cherish. Birthday mornings often begin with tea. Holidays include special blends or delicate cups, brought out just once a year. Simple achievements, a good day at school, a new job, a finished project, are sometimes marked with a peaceful afternoon tea. Weddings, too, occasionally include tea rituals, comforting, familiar, and intimate. Some couples choose to have tea instead of champagne at small gatherings, finding warmth in its simplicity. In winter, families gather for tea after returning indoors, from walks through cold parks or snowy lanes. In summer, tea accompanies picnics under shady trees or gentle celebrations in gardens. Tea fits easily into these moments because it does not demand attention. It simply enhances the atmosphere, warming hands, gently settling moods, encouraging conversation. Even in moments of farewell or transition, tea offers comfort. It provides a sense of continuity during times of change. In this way, tea quietly accompanies the soft celebrations of life. From joyful starts to reflective endings, Tea and the soft drift into memory. There comes a point in everyone's journey when memories begin to blend gently with the rituals of daily life. Tea, for many, becomes a keeper of these memories. A certain scent brings back a childhood morning. A particular blend recalls a favorite relative. A teapot reminds someone of times shared with people long gone, but warmly remembered. Memories tied to tea are rarely dramatic. More often, they are soft and ordinary, yet deeply comforting. A parent reading quietly in the next room. A friend laughing softly on a rainy afternoon. A grandparent pouring tea with steady hands. A moment of calm during a difficult day. These memories settle gently in the mind, resurfacing from time to time when a familiar cup is held or a certain warmth spreads through the hands. Tea becomes a thread that connects past to present, a gentle reminder of where one has been and of the people who shared the journey. It is through these quiet recollections that tea finds its deepest meaning, not just as a drink, but as a vessel for memory, comfort, and continuity. Tea and the British sense of home. Home means different things to different people, but for many in Britain, tea is one of its simplest, most reassuring symbols. It is the first thing prepared when returning after a long time away. It is the gesture offered to visitors. As soon as they step through the door, its scent fills kitchens and small living rooms, giving a sense of belonging. Home is not always a place. Sometimes it is a feeling, and tea gently helps create that feeling. In rented rooms, dormitories, and small apartments, tea provides stability, a small routine that remains constant, even when everything else feels new or uncertain. In old houses passed down through generations, tea becomes part of the inherited rhythm, the sound of a kettle echoing through the same rooms where ancestors once stood. Wherever one goes, tea offers a quiet way to create home anew. A warm cup in the hands, a familiar sip, a sense of peace. These small comforts weave together the feeling of home in its gentlest form. Tea as a companion on the path to rest. And now, as we move gently toward the closing pages of this part, it is fitting to reflect on tea's role in guiding people toward rest. For centuries, tea has helped soften evenings, bringing calm to weary minds and steady warmth to tired hands. Some enjoy light, soothing blends at night, allowing their gentle flavor to ease them into a peaceful state. Others simply find that the act of preparing tea, the slow fill of the kettle, the steady pour, the quiet sip, helps settle their thoughts before sleep. The warmth spreads softly, loosening the tightness of the day, encouraging deep breaths, inviting rest to come nearer. Night after night, tea serves as a small ritual, a familiar companion on the quiet path toward dreams. It does not hurry. It does not demand. It simply offers warmth, and in doing so, provides comfort, a soft, timeless comfort that continues to this very moment. The quiet spread of American evenings. Across the wide towns and open roads of the United States, evenings unfold differently from one region to another, yet they share a gentle, calming rhythm. When the day grows soft, in small Midwestern towns, porch lights glow faintly as people settle into wooden chairs outside their homes. Neighbors exchange slow, friendly waves. Not hurried, not formal, just a quiet acknowledgement of shared space and peaceful dusk. In the South, evenings bring a slower warmth. The air settles, the noise of daytime fades, and families gather on porches under the calm hush of nightfall. Some talk, some listen to the cicadas, some simply rest. Along the coasts, people end their days with gentle strolls beside the water. Waves roll in a soft, steady rhythm, accompanying thoughts that drift like the tide itself. Across busy cities, lights shimmer through the windows of tall buildings. Inside, individuals unwind in their own ways. A warm drink, a quiet conversation, a soft moment on the couch. Before sleep comes naturally. Though the locations differ greatly, American evenings share this thread of calm, a collective exhale. As people prepare to leave the day behind, a soft look at American small-town friendships. In many American small towns, friendships grow not through grand gestures, but through small, everyday kindnesses. A neighbor mows the edge of someone's lawn, just to be helpful. Another brings warm bread or a simple meal to a household going through a hard time. People exchange quiet greetings at grocery stores, where clerks remember names, and customers know each other's routines. These friendships often form slowly, gathered through years of shared mornings, shared worries during storms, shared laughter at community events. There is comfort in seeing familiar faces at the same places. The diner with its gently rotating ceiling fan, the hardware store that smells faintly of pine, the school gym where echoes drift during evening games. Nothing about these friendships is rushed. They come together in small, steady pieces. A wave here, a shared joke there, a favor returned quietly. Over time, these simple interactions create a sense of belonging that settles deep in the heart. A reminder that home is often formed by the people who notice your presence and greet you warmly each day. The soft hum of American cities at night. While small towns drift into quiet quickly, cities in the United States settle. In a different way, the noise does not vanish. Instead, it softens, becoming a distant, steady hum that seems to cradle the city in its arms. Streetlights cast warm halos on sidewalks. The last buses hiss gently as they break at corners. Restaurants close slowly, as staff wipe tables and share quiet conversations about their days. In apartment buildings, soft light glows through curtains. People read, finish late meals, or rest on balconies overlooking the streets below. Even the traffic, which roared through the day, shifts into a gentler rhythm. The occasional car passing, like a slow heartbeat of the night. There is something soothing about this urban calm, the sense that life continues, but without urgency. It is a time when thoughts drift freely, when people breathe deeper, when rest feels near. American cities, even at night, hold a quiet beauty. In their softened glow, the warmth of American family rituals. Across the country, families carry quiet rituals that bring comfort to their homes. Some gather each evening for dinner, sharing stories in uninterrupted conversation. As warm food fills the table, others end their nights with a soft routine. A parent reading aloud, siblings whispering before bed, a gentle reminder to rest. After a long, busy day, in many households, weekends bring small traditions. A peaceful morning walk, a slow breakfast together, a familiar movie played again and again, because it simply feels right. Families create these rituals, not through planning, but through repetition. Moments that grow naturally into sources of calm. Over time, these routines become the quiet backbone of daily life. And no matter where people go, the memory of these rituals remains. Soft, warm, and always welcoming. The calm strength of American communities. Throughout the United States, communities often reveal their strength during difficult moments. When storms strike coastal towns, neighbors help repair damaged homes. During harsh winters, people clear each other's driveways and share supplies with those who need them most. In times of uncertainty, communities gather, not loudly, but steadily, supporting one another with food drives, small donations, and quiet acts of care, especially in rural areas. This sense of collective responsibility runs deep. People step forward because they feel connected, not by obligation, but by a shared understanding of what it means to live side by side. This calm strength shapes life in countless ways. It brings comfort during hardship, reassurance during worry, and a peaceful feeling that no one is ever truly alone. The slow rhythm of American mornings. As night lifts, American mornings unfold in their own gentle form. In suburbs, sunlight spreads across quiet streets as people step out to collect newspapers or walk dogs through cool air. In cities, early risers make their way to coffee shops that open just after dawn, their warm cups sending steam into the air as they begin their day. On farms, morning work begins early, a steady, familiar routine that connects people to the land and animals they care for. Across all these places, mornings share a softness. Before the day becomes busy, a moment to breathe, to prepare, to move slowly, just for a little while, before the rhythm of life grows louder. The deep comfort of returning home. No matter where someone travels in the United States, there is a particular quiet comfort that comes from returning home. Stepping inside, one notices the familiar scent of the space, the faint trace of old books, or wooden furniture, or a favorite candle. There might be shoes by the door, memories on the walls, and a soft sense that everything is in its place. Home does not need to be large or finely decorated. Its comfort comes from recognition, the quiet certainty that this is where you can rest, without thinking, where the day can end, without effort. The feeling is subtle, but steady, a peaceful warmth, settling somewhere deep inside the USSR, quiet life behind the streets. Now, let us drift gently to a very different place and time, the vast stretches of the USSR. Here, life moved in quiet, measured rhythms. And even in a country so immense, people found moments of calm and routine. In small towns nestled between forests or rivers, families woke to early, soft light filtering through windows. Breakfast was often simple: porridge, bread, or tea, and prepared with care, even if the morning tasks ahead were long. Children walked to schools along wide streets lined with tall buildings. Neighbors exchanged small greetings, nods, quiet hello-s, smiles that held steady warmth. Even in industrial towns, workers found pockets of routine: a slow walk to the train, a quiet sip of tea before beginning the day, or a small snack shared with colleagues. Life was not loud in its daily rhythms. It was steady, soft, and repetitive, each day folding gently into the next. Evenings brought calm in homes. Families gathered around small tables. Tea was often served, sometimes with simple treats: black bread, preserves, or a slice of cake baked earlier in the week. The warmth of the tea, the shared presence of family, created quiet moments of comfort that persisted despite the vastness of the country. The softness of daily rituals. Daily life in the USSR, while structured, also contained simple, calming rituals. Morning routines in shared apartments or houses brought a sense of predictability. A kettle warmed water for tea, bread was sliced with care, and families prepared for the day together. Work routines, though steady and sometimes long, were punctuated by quiet pauses. Tea or coffee breaks offered gentle moments to rest. Even small conversations held warmth, creating human connections that softened the larger, impersonal rhythms of life. At home, evenings were often spent quietly. Children might read, parents knit or tended small gardens, and neighbors sometimes shared stories over a steaming cup of tea. Though the larger society was vast and complex, these personal routines carried a sense of peace and stability. They were small sanctuaries, moments of calm that existed amidst the broader structure. Soviet gardens and courtyards. One of the softer joys of Soviet life could be found in communal gardens and courtyards. Between apartment blocks, small green spaces offered a chance to pause, to stretch, to breathe fresh air. Residents tended flowers, vegetables, and small shrubs, each action quietly creating beauty and nourishment. Evenings often brought families to these spaces, children playing gently while parents watched nearby. Tea could be prepared and carried outside, where warm mugs accompanied gentle conversation. The rhythm of life in these courtyards was soothing, a swing creaking softly, a cat wandering among the bushes, the faint murmur of neighbors greeting each other. Even in a structured society, people found ways to nurture simple pleasures and create calm pockets in their day. Tea and small domestic comforts. Tea in the USSR was more than a drink, it was a daily companion. Families used it to anchor meals, moments, and conversations. Breakfast might begin with a cup of black tea, accompanied by bread or porridge. Afternoon breaks at work or school often included tea and a small snack. Evenings, after long days, brought a gentle cup that softened the mind. Tea offered warmth and steadiness. It provided a moment to slow down, to breathe deeply, and to connect with those around you. Despite the challenges of life, these domestic comforts held meaning. The ritual of preparing and drinking tea remained a small, reliable pleasure. It reminded people that even simple moments could carry profound calm. Soviet literature and tea moments. Literature in the USSR often captured these gentle, domestic moments. Writers would describe quiet kitchens, evenings spent reading, or small conversations over tea. These scenes, though understated, reflected life's soft rhythms. A child learning to pour a cup carefully, a neighbor arriving for a brief visit, the subtle warmth of a kettle humming in the background. Even in stories of larger events or challenges, these quiet tea moments provided relief, reminding readers of the small, enduring comforts that make life human. Tea thus became intertwined with memory, reflection, and the everyday poetry of domestic life. It offered gentle constancy, even in a society defined by large-scale change. slow evenings in Britain and the USSR. If we draw a quiet comparison, evenings in Britain and the USSR share a peaceful similarity. In both places, the day winds down, people return to homes. Tea or a warm drink accompanies calm reflection, and routines become soft anchors for the mind. Windows frame fading light, and soft conversations drift around small rooms. Hands are warmed by mugs, and hearts are eased by gentle repetition and quiet companionship. Though the landscapes differ, the cities, towns, and countryside create the same sense. The world slows down, the body relaxes, and sleep can arrive gently. This shared humanity, the comfort found in tea, in small daily rituals, in warm rooms and familiar routines, connects lives across continents, reminding us of life's simple, universal calm. The gentle passage of time. Time itself seems to slow when observed through quiet domestic moments. Morning tea, afternoon tea, evening tea. Each sip punctuates the day, marking its passage in soft, comforting intervals. Through centuries, this pattern continues. In England, in America, in the USSR, people rise, work, rest, and return home. They share moments, small comforts, and steady routines. Even as the world grows larger, faster, and noisier, these gentle practices endure. They remind us of our human need for calm, for presence, for warmth. Tea is not just a drink, it is a companion to life itself. A slow, quiet witness to the days that pass. A small comfort in every home, every city, every town. And as we drift toward sleep, we notice these rhythms quietly supporting us, softly guiding us toward rest. A calm reflection before rest. As we near the end of this part of the journey, take a gentle moment to imagine. A soft chair, a warm cup in your hands, a quiet room or a sunlit window, and the calm rhythm of life moving steadily around you. All is steady. All is gentle. The day has unfolded, and now you are invited to pause, to reflect, to allow your body and mind to rest. Think of distant lands, different lives, different centuries, and notice the shared, gentle threads. The warmth of tea, the soft rituals of daily life, the steady presence of home. These small comforts exist in countless lives. And now, they exist in your own, a comfort shared in quiet corners. There are moments in history that do not appear in grand records or official documents. Moments that live instead in the small corners of daily life, where warmth gathers softly and memories settle gently. Chapter 56 is one of these moments. By this time in our long and sleepy tale, tea had already found its place in England's cities and countryside alike. It had traveled from merchant ships to wooden market stalls, from the hands of nobles to the hands of stable workers and seamstresses, from drawing rooms with velvet drapes, to cottages with low ceilings and hearths that glowed like quiet suns. But what truly allowed tea to become a comfort across Britain was not the drink itself, but the way it created moments of pause. And this chapter settles into one of those moments. Teacup without handle, the gentle pause of late afternoon. Late afternoon in most English homes carried a certain hush, a soft, breathing stillness. Work slowed, carts rolled less frequently along the roads, and the light outside turned honey gold as if preparing the world for rest. In one small cottage on the edge of a sleepy village, a woman named Eleanor set her favorite clay teapot near the hearth. The pot was plain, a little cracked at the handle, but it poured with a steadiness she trusted. Eleanor's days were simple, washing linens, tending her hens, stitching patches into well-loved clothing, and by late afternoon, her hands often felt tired, her thoughts scattered like tiny feathers on the breeze. So she made tea, not to impress guests, not to follow a fashionable habit, but simply because it calmed her. She lifted the kettle from the hook above the hearth, the metal warm against her palms, and let the water fall into the waiting teapot. The soft splash echoed faintly through the room as the scent of the leaves began to unfurl into the air. It was never dramatic. It never needed to be. The small ritual itself seemed to whisper, "You can rest now. You've done enough." Sheaf of rice, a visitor at the door. Moments later came a gentle knock. Not urgent, not hurried, just the kind that suggests a friendly curiosity. It was her neighbor, Thomas, a quiet man who lived in the cottage just beyond the old ash tree. He had been repairing his fence and paused, drawn by the soft aroma drifting through Eleanor's open window. "Is that tea I smell?" he asked shyly. Eleanor smiled, her eyes soft. "It is, and there's enough for two." He stepped inside with the slow care of someone who never wished to intrude. The door closed with a small wooden sigh behind him. They sat at the small table in the center of the room, a table scarred by years of meals, mending, and winter evenings. And Eleanor poured the tea. The steam rose between them like a pale ribbon, curling, drifting, then disappearing into the shadows of the ceiling beams. Thomas breathed in. "It feels like the day settles itself, just for this moment," he murmured. And Eleanor nodded. She felt the same. Handled the growing tradition. Across England, scenes like this one happened again and again. Neighbors visiting neighbors. Families gathering in small rooms. Travelers resting their feet by warm fires. Friends finding a few quiet minutes before the day's light slipped away. Tea became a way to share stillness. A way to say, without speaking, "I'm here. Sit with me. Let the world be gentle for a while." By chapter 56 of Tea's journey in Britain, it was no longer a rare luxury or a curious novelty. It had become a steady companion, as familiar as a worn book, as soothing as the last glow of a sunset, as comforting as a hand resting gently on one's own. And in that cottage, as Eleanor and Thomas drank quietly, nothing grand happened, nothing historical, nothing remarkable, yet it was in these quiet, unremarkable moments that tea truly became a comfort to the British soul, and eventually to the world. The quiet spread of a gentle habit. There are chapters in history that move quietly, so quietly, in fact, that they feel more like a soft breath than a recorded moment. Chapter 57 is one of these. A calm drift from one village to another, from one household to the next, as tea settled deeper into British life. And as we begin, you may imagine the slow dimming of the day, the soft sigh of the breeze outside a cottage window, and the peaceful hush of a world preparing for rest. Teacup without handle, a soft ritual reaches the towns. While countryside cottages shaped the early comfort of tea, the towns of Britain soon welcomed the ritual with their own gentle rhythm. But even in towns, where shopkeepers opened shutters each morning, and the chimneys of workshops breathed faint curls of smoke, tea arrived not with noise or celebration, but with a simple, warming presence. In a small town near the rolling edges of Yorkshire, a baker named Rowan began each morning early, long before the sun lifted its pale glow over the rooftops. He would mix flour, salt, and yeast by hand, feeling the cool, soft texture of the dough beneath his palms. And as he worked, he always kept a pot of tea brewing nearby. It sat on a sturdy wooden table beside the brick oven, a little cracked around the rim, its glaze worn from years of use. Rowan never thought much of it. He brewed tea because it steadied his thoughts. In the quiet hours before customers began to wander in, their feet tapping softly across the cobblestones outside, the warmth of the tea, the scent of the leaves, the rising curl of steam, these small comforts shaped the beginning of his day, as surely as the bread he baked. And when customers arrived, sometimes still rubbing sleep from their eyes, Rowan would offer a cup, while their bread was wrapped in simple cloth. It became a small-town ritual, a moment of shared warmth. Between baker and visitor, a comfort passed from one hand to another. The gentle echo spreads. Across Britain, others discovered the same quiet delight. Not fanfare, not ceremony, just softness. A maid in London took slow sips by the courtyard steps, early in the morning before her tasks began. A post rider traveling from village to village carried a small tin of leaves in his satchel, brewing a simple cup whenever he stopped to rest his horse beneath a shade tree. A schoolteacher, Miss Abernathy, kept a teacup on her wooden desk, savoring a gentle moment of calm. During the short pauses between lessons, these scenes were not recorded in official documents. They didn't shape wars, or build empires, or cause dramatic events, but they shaped something far more enduring. A daily kindness to oneself, a small pause, a small warmth, a small reminder that life could be gentle. Sheaf of rice, evening calm in the town streets. By the late hours of the day, the town of Yorkshire settled into a peaceful hush. Shops closed softly, lamps glowed in the windows, and the scent of hearth smoke floated lightly in the cool air. In Rowan's bakery, after the last loaf was sold, and the counters wiped clean, he prepared one final pot of tea. This time, he did not drink it alone. A few townsfolk often stopped by as he closed, a blacksmith ending his shift, a seamstress with pins still tucked in her sleeve, a storyteller who traveled through the region, sharing tales in a gentle voice at the end. They would sit together near the still warm oven, cups in hand, speaking in soft tones, or sometimes not speaking at all. The world outside dimmed, as the tea inside warmed them. In that small, simple room, it was not a grand tradition, not a royal custom, not an aristocratic invention. It was just people, sharing a quiet moment. At the end of the day, tea, by chapter 57, had become a silent companion, a steady presence in British life, threaded into the fabric of both country villages and modest towns. And in this calm weaving, the ritual grew, softly, steadily, from home to home, and heart to heart, crescent moon. And so the chapter settles. As this chapter draws to its peaceful close, imagine the glow of warm windows in the dusk, the soft clink of teacups being set aside, and the slow exhale of a day fading into quiet. Tea had not yet become the global comfort it would someday be, not yet a symbol shared across oceans, not yet the beloved ritual found in countless homes. But its foundation was set here, gently, quietly, in the soft breath of towns like this one. The comfort was growing, the warmth was spreading, and the world was slowly learning to rest in the stillness of a simple cup of tea, the fireside evenings of England. By the time we reached chapter 58, tea had quietly woven itself into the soft corners of British evenings. The mornings and afternoons had their rituals, but the evenings were where tea became a companion to rest. This chapter settles into those quiet hours, when the world dimmed, the lamps glowed softly through windows, and the air carried the faint, comforting scent of burning wood and settling night. Here, the story slows, and the gentle presence of tea continues to drift from one household to another, like a soft, familiar melody. Kindle the quiet hearth. In a small stone house nestled at the edge of an old market town, an elderly man named Mr. Alden spent his evenings by the fire. The hearth crackled softly with glowing embers, casting warm amber light across the wooden floorboards. Each night, with hands slightly trembling from age, he would reach for a well-worn teapot, a teapot he had owned for decades. Its handle smoothed by years of use, did he brewed his tea slowly, as though each step of the process was a small meditation in itself. The lifting of the kettle, the gentle pour of hot water, the mist rising in thin, drifting wisps, all of it helped him settle into the comfort of another quiet evening. He would sip it silently, watching the shadows move along the walls, listening to the soft tick of the old clock, perched on the mantel. To him, the tea was more than a drink. It was a soft companion, one that reminded him of gentle days gone by, of people he once shared time with, and of the peacefulness that comes when one learns to treasure the quiet. Teacup without handle, a family tradition in the making. Across town, the Holden family prepared their own evening tea. 3 generations shared the same small brick home. A grandmother with slow steps, a mother whose hands were always busy, and 2 children with bright, curious eyes. Every night, the family would gather around a small round table, with a teapot set at the center. The grandmother always poured the first cup, her movements steady despite the years. The children watched her with quiet fascination, as though the pouring of tea was a tiny piece of magic, performed just for them. The mother would share simple stories, little memories from her own childhood, tales of places she once visited, or soft recollections of friends long gone. The children listened, each sip warming their hands, each story warming their hearts. Tea, for the Holden family, was the thread that stitched their evenings together. It held their conversations in a gentle embrace and brought the generations close. In a moment of shared calm, the inn at the crossroads, farther along the road leading out of the market town, stood a small country inn, its sign creaking softly in the evening breeze. Travelers often passed through, merchants with tired eyes, messengers carrying letters from distant cities, and farmers returning after long days in the fields. The innkeeper, a kind woman named Maribel, made sure every traveler was greeted with a warm pot of tea as soon as they sat down, no matter who arrived, young or old, rich or poor, weary or simply passing through. Maribel placed the same simple clay cup before each guest. She believed tea had a gentle way of telling people they were welcome. Some guests drank quickly, their minds still on their journeys. Others sipped slowly, letting the warmth seep into their bones. After hours of travel, sometimes they spoke of their travels, quiet tales of rolling hills, bustling markets, or peaceful rivers crossed in the early morning. Other times, they sat silently, resting in the small comfort that only a warm drink in a soft room can bring. The inn, with its steady hearth and low-lit lamps, became a waypoint of calm. In countless unseen journeys, candle evening softens into night. As the night deepened and the stars began to settle overhead, the comforting ritual of tea continued to echo. Through the quiet corners of Britain, homes dimmed their lamps, shops shut their doors, the roads emptied, and across the land, the soft clink of teacups settling on wooden tables marked the close of waking hours. It was here, in these serene moments, that tea became more than a British habit. It became a symbol of unwinding, a warm blanket for the spirit, a reminder to breathe slowly, and a gentle gesture of kindness offered to oneself. Chapter 58 rests in the peaceful glow of these evening rituals, where nothing rushed, nothing demanded attention, and the world felt soft enough to close one's eyes. Crescent Moon, a chapter that sleeps. As the soft warmth of tea drifts across these scenes, feel free to imagine your own quiet evening. A warm cup beside you, a soft light in the room, and the slow comfort of night settling gently around you. In this chapter, the comfort of tea continues its calm journey, not through grand events, but through peaceful evenings, shared by ordinary people, living ordinary, gentle lives. And as the door to this chapter closes softly, the story moves quietly forward, toward the moment when tea's gentle British ritual would begin reaching far beyond its island home. And now, as our long, quiet journey through the history and comfort of tea comes to its gentle close, let us linger for a few more moments in stillness. Imagine, if you will, a small kitchen somewhere in Britain. The sun has long since dipped below the horizon, leaving only a soft, twilight glow through the windows. A kettle rests quietly on the stove, its warmth fading, and a teacup, now empty, holds the faint scent of leaves steeped long ago. Think of all the hands, across centuries, that have lifted cups of tea. Families gathering in small rooms, neighbors pausing to chat, travelers resting after long days. Each sip, a soft rhythm, each ritual, a quiet anchor. Even in bustling cities or distant countries, the gentle presence of tea has offered comfort, reflection, and a calm pause in the world's rush. And now, you can allow yourself the same stillness. Feel the gentle weight of your body against your chair or bed, the soft rise and fall of your chest, the warmth of a calm breath. Imagine your own small ritual of tea, perhaps a warm cup in your hands, perhaps only the memory of its gentle aroma, and let it guide you into relaxation. There is no need to hurry. No need to think of tomorrow or yesterday. Here, in this soft moment, everything is quiet, everything is steady, and everything is just as it should be. As your mind drifts through these gentle memories and quiet stories, imagine the soft unfolding of the night outside. The stars begin to shimmer faintly in the dark sky. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves. Somewhere, a distant bell tolls once, softly, like a lullaby. And with each passing moment, your thoughts grow lighter, your body grows calmer, and sleep flows closer, steady and welcoming. Let the rhythm of centuries of tea, of quiet moments, and of human presence guide you now. You are safe. You are warm. You are at peace. And with that thought, let your eyes close gently, letting the calm of history and ritual carry you into deep, soothing rest. Good night.